Good morning, councillors, staff and residents of Logan. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land in which we gather on today, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memories, traditions, culture and hopes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people across the nation. I extend my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and community. I acknowledge their history of wisdom, resilience, of survival, and respectfully thank them for their contribution to the life of this city and the region. So I'd like to welcome you to the Ordinary Council meeting of the 25th of January 2023. I declare this meeting open at 10 a.m. I would like to advise the meeting attendees that this meeting is being webcast and audio recorded. And now we'll go straight into reflection. Can the gallery please be upstanding if you're able to, and join me a moment of contemplation. Thank you. This week, the Queensland economy was said to be the best performing economy in the nation. On top of this, southeast Queensland is one of Australia's fastest growing regions, with people drawn to the region for its weather, lifestyle and affordability. And Logan is no exception to this. It's an exciting time to be a major player in the Queensland economy. Our city is experiencing growth like never before. It is undeniable that people love living in the city of Logan. We expect nearly 500,000 people to be living here well before the next 2 decades. We're the drone capital of Australia, home to the EduTech unicorn. We have an Australian first biosolids gasification facility, and we are home to the people from 234 cultural backgrounds, just to name a few things. As a city and as part of the wider region, there is so much to look forward to. Logan is a place of opportunity for all. But all this growth isn't without its challenges. As a city and council, we are doing the heavy lifting, and we are continue to advocate to the state government to be recognised for exceeding our housing targets and to be compensated accordingly. Thank you. You may be seated. Attendees in leave of absence, we have no leave of absence to declare, so we don't need to carry that vote. Sorry. We have, yep, so we have no one, there's no leave of absence required today. So we'll go straight into condolences. I now refer to condolences. Do any councillors have a condolence to raise? I'll go through. So Councillor Bradley, Councillor Lane.
Thank you very, very much, Mr Mayor. Logan City lost a wonderful human being who made an impact on so many lives just several weeks ago. Pam Shelton was one of our local identities, and I know that, Mr Mayor, you had a lot to do with her. Former councillor Russell Lutton had a lot to do with her. She was part of the Logan Diggers, and she turned that place from a very small facility into what it is today, which employs some 50 plus people. Pam worked hard in the community. She worked on a charter that assisted all levels of community, from First Nations to the special school to Mission Possible, Socks and Shoes program for the local high schools, and most notably was the inaugural sponsor of the Keith Henderson Night at Marsden State School. She was the first GM in the Queensland in the club industry, Mr Mayor, and she was president of the RSL and Services Association for a year. She joined the Secretaries and Managers Association of Australia, where she received a number of awards for her work in our community and was acknowledged by that hard work by her peers. Pam served as a governance advisor to many of our local community groups, making sure that they had their governance measures in place, and she was a very sweet and loving person. She's survived by her husband, Dane Orchard, and her children, Christy and Amanda, and if we could please pass condolences along, that would be wonderful.
That will be done. I knew Pam personally. She was a great lady, and I think, if I recall, she helped entertain the troops in Vietnam. Can I say this? She has been a stalwart of this city for a very long time. I was shocked to hear of her passing last week, and she will be, well, I think when you look at the city's progress in regards to the RSL, she did a lot of good things. So certainly sorely missed. Councillor Russell, Councillor Clancy, Councillor Raven, Councillor Hall, Councillor Fraser, Councillor Heremiah, Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to pass my condolences on to David Ralph, or Dave as he was affectionately known, family, who suddenly passed away peacefully early in December 5th, aged 59. He was a dearly beloved husband of Denise, cherished father of Charlotte, Nathan and Danielle, grandfather to Charlie and Lincoln, and beloved brother and son. So Dave will be sadly missed by all, and it was a very tough first Christmas for all of them. So if we could please pass our condolences on to Denise and the family, I'm sure they would very much appreciate it. Thank you.
That will be done, Councillor Wilcox. That's all. Okay, thank you. So please, if you're able to stand and join me in a moment of contemplation for those who have gone and those who have been left behind. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Okay, we go straight into congratulations. Before we go into the councillor congratulations, we have one congratulations report to consider. I now refer to item 6.1 of today's agenda. I invite Director of Growth, Economy and Sustainability, Mr. Dave Hanson, to join the discussions. Before we open discussions on this item, do any councillors have a conflict of interest? I wouldn't imagine so. There being none, I will now proceed to the podium. In late November last year, Council was the recipient of a commendation at the Australian Urban Design Awards for the Bentley Streetscape Upgrade. The Australian Urban Design Awards is a national program which recognises outstanding architectural and urban design outcomes across our city and towns. It is widely regarded as a premier built environment awards program in Australia. It is highly competitive, with many private and public sector entries from every state and territory. I would like to acknowledge the branch representatives who are here today on behalf of their teams. So I have two representatives, Jennifer Neals and Ella Duplessis. We have others there that will be recognised, but I'll ask the two ladies to come forward and we'll get a photo. Thank you, councillors. Is there now a mover for the reports motion as displayed on the screen? Councillor Murphy has moved the motion. Do we have a second of the motion? Councillor Raven has seconded the motions. Any councillors wish to speak to the motion? Yep. Councillor Murphy and then Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say congratulations to the team. That project has been a long trial for all of us, but it's an absolute pleasure to go into the centre of Beenleigh and see that designs and the city square. I love it. I'm very, very proud of it, and thank you very much for the work that you have done for that, especially to Ella and Jen. It took a lot of time, and I'm glad to be working with you. So thank you very much, everybody that was involved.
Thank you. Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just curious, were park staff involved with this project as well? Because I'd like to sincerely thank the park staff who are absolutely amazing in our council.
Through the Chair, yes, Councillor Bradley, they were. So the full list of staff that were involved: Jennifer Neals, Michelle Martin, Olga Wilkinson, Henry Pudawadu, Ella Duplessis, Anthony Southern, Carl Bayer, Laura Brown and Grant Story. So the congratulations will go to all of those staff.
Okay, no more? Right, I now open the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously. Therefore, the motion has been carried. Okay, now I'll go to the floor for congratulations from the councillors. Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. I'll now start with Councillor Bradley for congratulations. I'll work my way around. Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Last Friday, some 70 people were recognised for their local community service at the Rankin Local Legends Award at Logan Diggers. It's a theme today, Logan Diggers. These people came from all walks of life. They give selflessly to our community, whether through training people, whether through supporting families, supporting students at schools, and they were all recognised quite beautifully. So I just want to say congratulations to everyone there. There's no need to leave it from you, Mr. Mayor, but it was a wonderful and enthusiastic acknowledgement of local volunteers in our community.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wish to congratulate Maurice and Shirley Purser on their 70th wedding anniversary. Maurice and Shirley have lived in Logan for over 40 years and they've been proud Daisy Hillians this whole time. Their secret to marriage success is doing things together and tolerating each other. Maurice loves a good whiskey, and I don't know if those two are connected. The Purser family celebrated yesterday afternoon with many friends and neighbours, and I'm sure that they will be very pleased to receive a letter from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. Councillor Koransky.
70 years, that's something, isn't it? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my great pleasure to announce that Logan has a new school. South Rock State School opened this past Monday in the Yarrabilba area, and the foundation principal and teachers are very, very excited to welcome a cohort of 77 new students into the school. The school is absolutely beautiful, and there were some nervous Nellies in the lead up to the opening given the construction challenges that we're facing South East Queensland at the moment, but nonetheless they managed to get it together and open on time. So 56 new families will come to the school, and I'd just like to ask that congratulations be forwarded to Foundation Principal Aaron Jones, and I'd like to wish all of the families, the students and the teachers at South Rock State School all the very best for the coming year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That will be done. Councillor Raven, Councillor Hall, Councillor Fraser, Councillor Hermeyer, Councillor Bannon, Councillor Stemp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask the congratulations be passed on to the Logan Thunder Under-18 Division 1 girls team who recently competed in the State Basketball Championships. Mr. Mayor, this team were undefeated throughout the competition and took out the 2023 Under-18 Girls State Championship Final 73 to 72 points against the Mackay Meteorites, which is an amazing achievement. The Thunder family had 5 teams competing for medals in the Under-18 State Championships, which is great for the future and continues to show the high calibre of basketball talent we have here in Logan. Thank you.
Well done. Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Greenbank Park Run started on the 5th of August 2017, and on January 7th this year they celebrated their 200th event. So I'd like to pass on my huge thanks to everyone who joined Greenbank Park Run earlier this month, and a massive congratulations to all involved. 148 people ran, jogged and walked the course that day. 31 were first-timers and 10 recorded personal bests, with representatives from 17 different clubs running that day. And the event was made possible by 12 volunteers. And I must say thank you to Greenbank Parkrun for their stats up on Facebook. So thank you to them. Now, since 2017, there have been, and these are some really good stats and I love it as a former HPE teacher, 3,084 participants have completed 15,112 park runs covering a total distance of 75,560 kilometres, including 2,616 personal new bests, and a total of 348 individuals who have volunteered 1,786 times. Bit of a tongue twister. Congratulations to everyone involved, and thank you to everyone who participates, not just at Greenbank Parkrun, but to everyone across the City of Logan. These are awesome events, and I guess I probably need to go put my sneakers back on and start running them after Christmas break. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox. Councillor Murphy? No? That finalises the congratulations. Well done. So we'll go into confirmation of the minutes. I now refer to the minutes of the previous ordinary council meeting. I move that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 14th of December 2022 be confirmed. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wilcox has seconded the motion. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? No. Okay, now open the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously, therefore the motion has been carried. We'll go to declarations of conflict of interest. I now refer to the declarations of conflicts of interest. Do any councillors wish to declare any new conflicts of interest against any items on today's agenda, including any conflicts which have subsequently arisen from matters discussed at committee? No. There being none, I now refer to the next item on the agenda, which is business arising. We have no business arising from the minutes to consider. We'll go straight into the reports. I now refer to the City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee meeting held on the 18th of January 2023. Councillor Raven, Chairperson of the City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's an exciting committee. We discussed the South East Queensland Regional Plan and how we were moving to be proactive in talking to the state government about our expectations for how little they would do to Logan, because as you already mentioned, Mr Mayor, we are doing all the heavy lifting when it comes to housing availability in South East Queensland. We're the only city to be hitting our density and availability targets. But for those residents who've been writing to us for some time now, I know that you and other councillors receive emails from residents who are just on the edge of the urban footprint and feel that when they have small lot houses all around them or smaller lot houses, that it's unusual that they would be stuck on multi-acre blocks. So we have got some room in there to wriggle around that and make some small changes, but I know that you don't want to see wholesale increases to the urban footprint in our city, Mr Mayor, and neither do I. Probably the most exciting part that triggered the most debate, though, was the extension of the infrastructure charges on secondary dwellings, Mr Mayor. And I want to thank councillors for getting involved and really putting the positions of their community and thinking of the whole city at the same time. Since we made that decision, Mr Mayor, I've already received about a dozen emails thanking the council for their decision and the practicality of giving a reasonable extension of time to people who had already begun the process late last year when we made the initial decision. So thank you to councillors on behalf of my community and others who have sent emails to me as chair.
Thank you, Councillor Raven. Do any councillors wish to speak? None being so, hand it back to you, Councillor Raven.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I now move that 1, the minutes of the City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee meeting held on the 18th of January 2023 be confirmed, and 2, that the recommendations of the City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee meeting held on the 18th of January 2023 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Raven. Councillor Raven has moved the motion. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stemp, seconded the motion. Anyone wish to speak to the motion? No. I now open the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously, therefore the motion's been carried. We'll go straight into city infrastructure. I now refer to the City Infrastructure Committee meeting held on the 18th of January 2023. Yes, sorry, I should have asked whether or not any councillors wish to vote against any of the items in that previous report. So what I'll do is I'll go back to that. So do any councillors wish to put their name against or abstain from any of those reports? Councillor Jeremiah.
I'd like to vote against item 5.2. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Jeremiah. That will be recorded. Any others? No. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I'll now refer to the City Infrastructure Committee meeting held on the 18th of January 2023. Councillor Lane, Chairperson of the City Infrastructure Committee, you may proceed.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. We cracked the whip on this committee on the day. We had one report to consider, and we also had a general business motion from Councillor Jeremiah on the upgrades to Park Ridge Road. Roads and water are filling the requirements of city planning. Where we have growth in the city, they're actually struggling to keep up, but they are doing a cracking job of it while also servicing the older areas of the city. And we had discussions around that during that committee meeting. Nothing else to speak on, Mr Mayor.
Okay, I'll open it to the others. Councillor Hall?
Yeah, part of that meeting was, for you, Mr Mayor, part of that meeting was very important to my electorate and to the residents of one of my lifestyle villages, which is Ingenia. And I believe what we've done in the basis of getting that report returned is given us a way forward for those residents. And it's all about safety and security of our residents in all of Logan as well. So I believe I have some good news for the residents in that area in terms of what we've got back from that report, and a definite way forward looking towards the safety and security of those residents as well. So I'll be glad to talk to them about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors? No, I'll hand it back to you, Councillor Lane.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I now move that the minutes of the City Infrastructure Committee meeting held on the 18th of January 2023 be confirmed, and that the recommendations of the City Infrastructure Committee meeting held on 18 January 2023 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Councillor Lane has moved the motion. Do I have a second of the motion? Councillor Hall, the second of the motion. Anyone wish to speak to the motion? No one wishes to speak to the motion. I now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously. I will now ask councillors whether they wish to record their name or abstain against any of the items in that report. None being so, I'll now continue. Thank you. I'll now refer to the City Lifestyle Committee meeting held on the 18th of January 2023. Councillor Karansky, Chairperson of the City Lifestyle Committee, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. At the first City Lifestyle Committee for the year, councillors considered and supported a Community Benefit Fund request which will be appreciated by the Greenbank State School PNC and the wider school community in Division 11. Councillors also received a report regarding the future leasing of the Underwood Park Cafe located in Division 1, and it was evident throughout discussions that councillors are keen to support a positive outcome from the cafe and for other similar spaces around the city to be activated so they can be used and enjoyed to their full potential by our community. We're looking forward to seeing this space and others like it live up to expectations. In general business, council officers were acknowledged for their excellent customer service delivered during the school holiday break and the Christmas period, and the responsiveness of teams who kept the wheels turning over this time was noted and appreciated by councillors and the community.
Thank you, Councillor Kransky. Any other councillors wish to speak on any of the items in this report? No? I'll hand it back to you, Councillor Kransky.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I now move that the minutes of the City Lifestyle Committee meeting held on the 18th of January 2023 be confirmed, and that the recommendations of the City Lifestyle Committee meeting held on the 18th of January be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kransky. Councillor Kransky has moved the motion. Councillor Hall is seconding the motion. Anyone wish to speak to the motion? No. I'll now put the matter to the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously. Does any council wish to record their name or abstain against any of those matters in that report? None being so, I will continue. Okay. I'll now refer to the City Governance Committee meeting held on the 18th of January 2023. As Councillor Murphy was absent from committee last week and the meeting was chaired by Councillor Fraser, I will ask Councillor Fraser, Deputy Chairperson of the City Governance Committee, to speak to the recommendations. Councillor Fraser, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to note that item 7.1 of the City Governance Committee meeting will be addressed later in today's agenda and separated from the bulk adoption of the recommendations. I'll now speak to the remainder of the recommendations. So in committee we were presented the reports on the monthly financial report for November 2022 and proposed disposal of land in Hillcrest.
Do any other councillors wish to speak on any of those items? No. I hand it back to you, Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I now move that number 1, the minutes of the City Governance Committee meeting held on the 18th of January 2023 be confirmed. And number 2, that the recommendations of the City Governance Committee meeting held on the 18th of January 2023, with the exception of item 7.1, be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Fraser. Councillor Fraser has moved the motion. Do I have a second of the motion? Councillor Bradley has seconded the motion. Anyone wish to speak to the motion? No. Okay, I now put the matter to the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously. Therefore, the motion has been carried. I'll pass it back to you, Councillor Fraser, for the other reports.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Since committee met last week, the Director of Organisational Services has circulated an amended WIP policy and guidelines for consideration by councillors. I'll now like to move a motion as follows. That the amended Local Infrastructure Program policy and guidelines as provided to councillors by the Director of Organisational Services be tabled.
Thank you, Councillor Fraser. Do I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Murphy has moved the motion. Do I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor Fraser has seconded the motion as displayed on the board up there. As this is a procedural motion, I now open the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. This is just to accept the report. You voted for that, Councillor Bradley. Okay, that motion has been carried unanimously. Therefore, the motion has been carried. So, Councillor Fraser, you may continue.
Councillors, at the City Governance Committee, there was some discussion about amendments to the WIP policy and guidelines. The Director has made those amendments and circulated amended drafts to you for feedback. Given that, I would now like to propose an amended motion as follows. That the amended Local Infrastructure Program or WIP policy and guidelines is tabled to the meeting of the 25th of January 2023 be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Fraser. Councillor Fraser has moved the motion. Do I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor Murphy has seconded the motion. Anyone wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Bradley.
Thank you. Before I speak, I want to ask a question to the CEO, please. This amendment, was that brought forward because we were reported to the Department of Local Government at all, or any mismanagement or fraud by any chance?
No.
Thank you. And while I support transparency and accountability for local infrastructure program, I'm mindful of the transference of accountability to the community shifts from the councillors to council officers, and I want to refer back to the time of administration. I specifically wish to refer to the consequences of with the community of what actually happened with Underwood Park redevelopment and to what actually eventuated during administration. What the community were consulted about and what eventuated were two different things. This policy refers to branch managers providing expert advice to develop project scoping. To that I say that councillors are the subject experts of their divisions. Most councillors live in their respective divisions. A lot of branch managers don't. Use the parks and amenities and are the ones receiving feedback from the community. Considerable LIP funding, or DICIT back then, went into Underwood Park redevelopment. Prior to administration, the restaurant earmarked for Underwood Park turned into a kiosk/cafe. Today, 4 years later, we endorsed a modest upgrade that finally supports that building to be financially viable. The policy goes on to say that branch managers or their delegates is also responsible for the cost estimates of these projects. During the week, I was informed of a LIP project with last-minute changes, and as an item used was not fit for purpose. Thus, an additional item had to be added at the expense of ratepayers' money. I witnessed a cultural shift this term, specifically in reference to consultation with divisional councillors. Late last year, I expressed in Council's ordinary meeting a staff member's response where I was told, "What are you going to do about it?" After I questioned their reaction. Yes, I support more transparency in projects to the community. Yes, I support moving to approve in full council resolution. However, I am mindful who becomes accountable to the community when these project costs are blown out or not delivered at all. I question how can we as divisional councillors be accountable for actions that aren't ours? And after saying that, today I support this policy, but I am doing so with trepidation.
Thank you. Councillor Hermay, you wish to discuss this item? You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A quick question for the CEO. I'd like to just make it very clear for my knowledge with this vote. Do you support the motion on the board right now? It's that motion, I'll read out the motion for everyone's clarification, that the amended Local Infrastructure Program LIP policy and guidelines as tabled at this meeting be adopted. I'd just like to clarify, does that have your support as the CEO?
Yes, it does. That's the document that was adjusted post the committee meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? No more discussion. So where were we? We had a seconder. We just asked whether you wish to speak to the motion. That's been discussed, so now we'll go to the floor to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously, therefore the motion has been carried. So now we'll go to council reports. We have no council reports to consider. Late reports, there are no late reports to consider, but we do have petitions, I'm aware of that. I will start with Councillor Raven. I believe you have two petitions. You may proceed.
Mr. Mayor, I believe 13.1 is actually Councillor Russell's. Mine is the review of new flood mapping data, which is 13.2, so I'll yield the floor to my colleague.
Sorry, I thought you had, it's not your petition, it's Councillor Russell's petition.
13.2, review of new flood mapping data, is the petition to which is addressed to me. 13.1 is addressed to Councillor Russell.
All right, so we will deal with 13.1. Can we have the recommendation up on the board? So, Councillor Russell, you may introduce this petition.
Thank you very much, Mayor Power. It's hard to imagine that the flood was nearly a year ago. So many of us in the community are still feeling the impacts as if it was yesterday, whether we were directly impacted by the flood or not. Understandably, there is a lot of confusion and concern about the changes to the flood mapping, and therefore I'm really grateful for the opportunity to represent my community by presenting the following petition to Council.
Okay, so you're moving to receive the motion on the board?
Yes.
Yep. Do I have a second to that motion? Councillor Karansky is seconded. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously. Now we'll go to 13.2, which is Councillor Raven.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank the Chief Petitioner for the effort that she's put into drawing the community's attention to this important matter. Roughly 5% of the city has been impacted by these changes, so the There's a significant number of people who'd be interested to see what might happen with this, and I look forward to the report that will come back from Director Trinker in regards to the review of the new flood mapping data. Happy to move the motion, Mr Mayor.
So Councillor Raven has moved the motion to receive this petition. I have a seconder from Councillor Bannon. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously, therefore the motion is carried. That's all the petitions? Okay, that's good. All right. Consideration of notified motions, we have none. General business. I now refer to general business. Today we'll be starting at Division 7 with Councillor Fraser. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Earlier today we adopted a local infrastructure program policy. As part of the committee report last week, there was a recommendation from officers that council support the inclusion of a local infrastructure administrator in the future budgets register. I'd like to bring that proposal forward for discussion on the basis that administration of the policy is an efficient and effective way which would best be achieved through centralising of reporting, which the position of the administrator could go a long way towards delivering. The recommendation is not that this be supported today, but rather be included in a future budgets register so that a well-developed business case can be presented by the organisation for consideration as part of budget for the next financial year. The motion I would like to move today is as follows: that a service enhancement for the creation of a local infrastructure administrator funded from the recurrent LIP allocations be included in a future budgets register for consideration as part of the 2023-2024 budget process. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fraser. Councillor Fraser is allowed to do this under the law, under the rules of general business. But what I will do is offer the opportunity to the councillors to raise any questions regarding this. Councillor Raven was first, Councillor Kramanski was second, Councillor Bradley was third.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Fraser for bringing this forward. I'm happy to consider anything through the future budgets register as long as it doesn't put an unreasonable impost on the organisation to generate the report. My question or concern about this motion is that it says the service enhancement for the creation of a local infrastructure administrator funded from the recurrent LIP allocations be included in the future budgets register. I don't understand why you would limit the council in considering through the budget how to fund a service enhancement. It should just, the service enhancement itself should just be referred to the future budgets register for consideration, and council can make a strategic decision at that time about the best way to fund it if we do want to fund it. So I'd be supportive of an amended motion that essentially removed funded from the recurrent LIP allocations from the motions.
Okay, so you've made, what I'll do is I'll come back to that. I'll go Councillor Kramanski, then Councillor Bradley, then Councillor Lane.
Thank you. Councillor Raven actually alluded to where I was going with this, but mine was a question perhaps for the CEO. Because of the structure of the local infrastructure program-based budget, I understood that was limited only to capital infrastructure. So would it even comply with the existing specifications of the LIP guidelines?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I think for today, whether that's in there or not doesn't really matter. It won't fetter your future decision as to how you allocate the budget in the future. So I think that discussion can wait for the budget process.
Thank you. So, Mr Mayor, I'd be reluctant to tie a future council to ongoing recurrent budgets through the local infrastructure program-based budget. That being said, I am happy to consider this option external to local infrastructure and program-based budget as part of a budget recommendation as it comes up in due course.
Okay, Councillor Kramanski, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow discussion to happen because I don't want to change the recommendations a couple of times. What I'm going to do is I'm going to swing around to the other councillors and then we'll come back to the original motion and then see whether we want to, how we want to adjust that. So, Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I too cannot support recurrent LIP being used for this. But my question really is for Director Strachan, if I may ask him a question. Thank you so much for coming up. obviously you've been around for a while, so have I. And historically, there was DICIP, and there was a policy to do with DICIP. How did the organisation manage that? Was there a staff member allocated for that? Who funded that? How did that operate?
Yes, good morning, Mayor and councillors. Thanks for the question, Councillor Bradley. There was the DICIP program that was historically administered out of the corporate governance branch. There was a team that was responsible for putting up reports to council to get approval for the allocation to the various DICIP projects. Historically, there hasn't been the level of centralised reporting and reconciliations that we're doing at the moment. Really, each individual branch was responsible for the LIP projects under the new policy, and there was no central reporting of actual spend against the budget against those individual projects. So part of the administrative process was done historically by a staff member in corporate governance, but what we're proposing in the service enhancement, should you choose for it to come forward, is a position that would take that to the next level in relation to centralised management and reporting of the LIP program.
Thank you, and I'm very supportive of transparency. My next question, if I may, are branches able to be trained to do this, the reconciliation, to a standard that is consistent across the whole organisation?
The first they can is the simple answer to the question. The first part of the, if we had the central resource, the first part of their responsibility would be to ensure that the processes used across the different branches are consistent. At the moment, they're all different, which makes centralised reporting very difficult. So once we have those centralised systems and processes, certainly branches can be trained up to capture and report information in specified ways, which makes central reporting a lot easier.
Thank you. I'll just say for the record that I've never had an issue with that reconciliation from different branches. Thank you.
Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. We had a very robust debate about this issue in the council committee meeting. So for this to come up today is a bit of a surprise. I support something being looked at in future budgets register. My concern is that there is no detail around this administrator, what they'll earn, what their role is, how it will go forward. If the council can show me that there is benefit in doing this and the benefit is greatly to the community, then it'll be something that I will seriously look at. However, it is already being done. And that's the part that I don't understand about this coming up today. We are already getting reports on the spending of local infrastructure funds in a timely fashion, and I'm quite satisfied with how they're working currently. So I will support the motion today. I will not support the part that says from the local infrastructure fund or program fund from the divisions. The reason for that is meant for infrastructure, not for wages. Thank you.
Any other questions from any councillors? Okay, what I'll do is I'll hand it back to Councillor Raven. Councillor Raven was the original speaker, and you were flagging an amendment to the motion. I think you've had an opportunity to listen to the other councillors and their feelings towards this. I'll give the opportunity for you to change the recommendation or forecast a change.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And listening to the feedback from my colleagues, it sounds like we're in alignment on removing the words. It's really up to Councillor Fraser as to whether or not he would like to modify his motion.
Yep.
If he would like to modify his motion, I am happy to second the motion.
Yep.
I acknowledge what the CEO has said and that we could vote for it now and just sort it out later. But I think what we vote on and the words we vote on in this place matter a great deal, and councillors would be far more comfortable knowing that they have the flexibility and the freedom to allocate funding from wherever they may want to through the budget process, including the detail that councillors Bradley and Lane have asked to receive as part of the service enhancement information.
Thank you, Councillor Raven. What I was going to do was give you the opportunity to put the amended motion towards the councillors. Then I was going to ask Councillor Fraser, whether he would allow that to be amended because he was the original. So, Councillor Fraser, are you happy with what the intent of Councillor Raven is intending to do with this amendment, this recommendation?
I'm happy with that, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Minute Clerk, have you got what?
Do you have the wording? So if you just remove, after the word administrator, remove funded from the recurrent LIP allocations.
Okay, councillors. I will now ask Councillor Fraser whether you're completely happy with that version up there.
I'm happy, Mr Mayor.
And I will give you the opportunity to move the motion. And the reason being that the majority of it is your motion.
Okay, Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that a service enhancement for the creation of a local infrastructure administrator be included in the future budget register for consideration as part of the 2023-2024 budget process.
Thank you, and I'll ask for a seconder. Councillor Raven has seconded the motion. Anyone wish to speak to the motion? No. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously, therefore the motion has been carried. Any more general business, Councillor Fraser? No. Councillor Jeremiah, Councillor Bannon, Councillor Stemp, Councillor Wilcox, Councillor Murphy, Councillor Bradley. No. Councillor Lane. We're on a good run then, but...
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor, but guess what? We've got important stuff happening across the city, so I'd really love to talk about in general business. On Saturday, the Murray versus Koori Challenge is on at Bill Norris Oval in Division 12, and it's mate against mate, state against state, and when it's First Nations footy, you know it's tough and it's going to be absolutely awesome. So if you're interested in watching a great footy game, go down to Bill Norris Oval in Division 12 and enjoy that on Saturday. Ed and Nicole Lacey are very big drivers of that, and we're really pleased that they're working with the local elders on it. Mr Mayor, there are so many great things happening early next month, which is why I'm raising them now. Ampty and Family Support Group are doing medication and diabetes management classes and falls prevention, which is so important to the elderly and the infirm in our community. And Lakota is coming back with belly dancing, Probus, garden club, craft club and indoor bowls. So if you're of a mind and you've got time, look Lakota up or look Amputee and Family Support Group up. They're great community institutions and they do good things. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Russell, Councillor Karansky, Councillor Russell, Councillor Hall. Leaves me with just a couple of items. It would be remiss of me to not mention the passing of Vaughan Johnson, a former Minister of the Borbridge government. When I first got into office in 1997, Vaughan was the Minister for Transport, and I had an issue with a particular toilet. Well, the residents had an issue, I didn't, under the bridge down at Logan Home. And I say this story because exceeded all expectations. I thought I would ring the Minister's office. Now, conveyed to the Secretary, the problem was, within about 20 minutes, the Minister rang me up and wanted to get to know exactly what was going on, why I had problems with this toilet. It was near a playground. There was some activity there that I won't mention, but residents had found that unpleasant and they decided to ring and complain to me. I was a newly elected councillor. Vaughan said to me, and he's a hard man, he said, listen, son, I'll fix that. Don't you worry. And I thought, oh, thank you very much. The next morning, the toilet block was gone. Gone. And everyone could not believe the timing that it took to actually remove it. So I'd just like to mention Vaughan. I had some good discussions with the man. He had a very firm handshake and very much a country man. The other issue that I raise is last night my family decided to go to the Brecky Creek Hotel Nothing unspectacular about that. The steak was pretty ordinary. The blowflies were hanging around. The salad was ordinary. But what I can say is I went for a bit of a walk around the hotel, and they have a flood level indicator of the floods. And what I noticed was 2022, the flood came in at about approximately maybe 10 inches from what I can judge. And there was a flood in 1893 that they registered, which was about another 1.5 metres above the 2022 levels. So I think when I take that in, and as you know, history always has a habit of repeating itself, the work that we're doing with flood levels, I think we're taking the necessary steps. So if you don't believe me, go there and have a look, but don't eat the steak. Thank you. Meeting up.